Throw another Robin at him. That's what it is.
See what
It's
happened to
terrible.
Jason Todd.
Damn it.
Throw Jason Todd's body.
You're terrible people.
What's up, everybody? This is Zach with the Nerd Cave Network, and today I have a special guest from where? Where are you from? Who are you?
My mom and dad,
Mhm.
they genetic pool and then egg formed and hatched.
They sent you here from a different planet.
They did. I am the last son of Krypton. No, I'm Kiku from Neek the podcast, and I am a Superman superfan
Very few of you.
anymore.
Yeah. But that's why we asked you here.
Yes.
Today we're going to do our top 5 Batman, me Batman, and you're Superman, okay? Comics.
Wait a minute. I thought I was Batman.
Yeah, sure.
Shit, I misprepared for this. Now I gotta go. Okay.
So we'll start it off with number 5. Since you're the guest here, what is your number 5 top Superman book?
When you asked me to do this, because I think this does need a little bit of explanation, obviously this is preparation, right, for Batman vs. Superman coming out tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
So I went with books that are modern Superman, because both Batman and Superman, 75 plus years of history, trying to go back through all of that and be like, well, let me pick a top 5. So really at number 5, just because I think it's required reading for everybody, is All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman is an amazing book. It's basically about what Superman would do if he knew he was dying, like if he had cancer, right? And how the adventures he has and the things that he does right before he dies. And it's a very emotional book. Grant Morrison, right? Yeah, Grant Morrison. They actually turned it into a cartoon movie. The movie's actually not too bad, but I do suggest that book. It's a very interesting look at the Man of Steel when he knows he only has a little bit of time left to live.
I've only watched the animated movie of it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
My number 5 comes from a man that I regret that he's leaving The Dark Knight. Scott Snyder's The Court of Owls, his first attempt at, well, actually Black Mirror was his first attempt, but his first run as a continuing author on Batman, and The Court of Owls was just amazing. The psychological nature of the whole book, just him getting really deep down in the psyche, and Greg Caputo's art, just amazing.
I love his figures too. Caputo's figures, they're really good.
Yeah.
Plus, The Court of Owls, Scott Snyder literally introduced this almost brand new group of villains, and they were terrifying. Like you were just like, these guys are awesome. They actually so awesome they put them in the Gotham.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah, and like the whole Talon thing was just really interesting, and how they used the circus as a breeding ground for the Talons over all of these many years. And if you haven't read that, you definitely need to check that one out. Moving to number 4.
Number 4 is Superman for Tomorrow. It sounds like he's trying to run for political office, but he's not. Superman for Tomorrow is an interesting look at if Superman decided to try to play God.
Okay.
He actually opens up it starts off kind of confusing where there's an event that happens and all these people disappear from the planet, and Superman is investigating and doesn't realize that he's the one that caused it. And it's because he took all these people and put them into another dimension that was kind of his own version of heaven. And unfortunately, it's attached to the Phantom Zone. Zod comes in, destroys it all. He has to go save everybody and bring them back. But a lot of questions about faith, about what he's supposed to do and things like that. And there's a lot of really interesting dialogue between him and a priest of Metropolis. The priest actually winds up becoming a supervillain, but
Interesting.
But I mean, comic books, right?
Yeah.
But before that, those conversations are very interesting, and for a lot of people that talk about Superman and the God complex, this touches on it very nicely and how he doesn't want to do that even though he has done it. So definitely read that one.
My number 4 is Hush. This book
Great book.
is amazing. Jeff Loeb, Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, just stunning. The whole thing takes Batman down to the core essence and showcases all of the villains while introducing a villain that is very close to home, which is Hush, which actually turns out to be a childhood friend of his. And the art, Jim Lee can do no wrong other than not being on a time schedule.
That's true.
Days. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he does so much stuff now, right? Like, Jim Lee is DC Comics right now. Even though you have a lot of great names attached to DC, but like, you think DC, you're like, oh yeah, Jim Lee, right?
Mm-hmm. Automatically.
Plus, Hush is a serial killer, and that's just, other than Zaz, you really haven't seen. Oh my God, what's the guy that wears the pig face?
Oh,
the
Mr.
butcher.
Pig.
Yeah, Mr. Pig, but I can't remember like the character's name. It doesn't matter. Play Arkham Knight. But other than those two, they're not used as frequently as like the Joker and whatnot. Hush was terrifying as well, and that's something that I think the Batman series always has had is those like terrifying villains, right? Like they're realistic, tangible villains that Batman. I think that's why a lot of people relate to Batman because those villains are just so meaty.
Mm-hmm. He has one of the best rogues gallery along with Spider-Man.
Yeah, him and Spider-Man, definitely.
Definitely, and just how they bring in all of these villains to make the story work. It's kind of reminiscent of Nightfall, of how he throws all of the villains at Batman to break him. But just an amazing book. And number 3, what is your number 3?
Number 3.
So you brought all the books.
I did.
I'm going to use the green screen to my advantage, though.
Well, I don't own one of those. And it's not like I can be like, all right, Zach, I'm coming over and bringing my green screen. We'll sit on opposite ends of the table. You got to rotate the camera. It'd be crazy. So Superman Birthright. Birthright is a newer look at Superman's origin. A more modern look at him in Kansas and things like that. To kind of really get away from the all-American boy sort of like 50s vibe that Superman always had. Really great. Mark Waid was part of it.
Love Mark Waid.
Mark
Amazing.
Waid, yeah. Superman, a lot of these books have like top-notch writers on them, and it's a shame that Superman's popularity has gone downhill because people, for some reason, want to stray away from what he represents. But Birthright is a great look at his origin story, and then even going in a little further to when he becomes Superman.
Nice. My number 3, The Long Halloween. This was actually one of the first times when I first got into comics reading was The Long Halloween. And of course I started with paper trade back, and the feel of that trade back just is amazing. It has a different kind of color. It's not the sheen color. It's just
the dry, almost waxy.
Yeah, it feels amazing. But the story behind it, that there is a murderer that kills only on the holidays, was so interesting. The style of the book and just trying to figure out who this is. It was just a really good way to introduce me. I've been a Batman fan all my life, but it's usually been the animated series or the movies and everything. But I wanted to get into comics, and that was a great way to introduce me to this story that I've never heard, this mystery, and it's one of the only times that I've read that actually showcases him as a detective. A lot of the times it's like Bat-God, which I love Bat-God, but Detective Batman is the more interesting one to me because you feel more like you can connect with that.
I think, but that's, what's funny is that is Batman's like superpower, right? It's his detective skills in his mind, because, as a part of the Justice League, they don't need him to throw fisticuffs. They have freaking Superman and Wonder Woman. Like, yeah, go ahead, Bruce. We'll back you up in a few minutes. You'll be fine.
Throw a batarang.
Yeah, throw your batarang, man. You'll be fine. Throw another Robin at him. That's what it is.
See what happens to Jason Todd.
Damn it.
Throw Jason Todd's body.
You're terrible people. Oh my god. But The Long Halloween's really good. It's definitely one of my favorite series, and I'm actually looking at your list, and I'm like, I would flip-flop 1 and 2, but that's just me.
1 and 2 is
They are flip floppy. Yeah, they are flip floppy.
All right, your number dos.
Number 2 is actually a kind of a what if series, right?
Yes, this is one of my favorites.
Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come actually is what would happen if Superman decided he had enough of the world shitting on him and retired, and just left Metropolis, left the planet, or didn't leave the planet, but he goes to like the Fortress of Solitude and sets up a fake Candace farm and whatnot, and just completely isolates himself from everybody else. And then unfortunately, supervillains come back around and whatnot, and things start to get out of hand. The heroes aren't trained. Everybody thinks they're a hero. There's a lot of collateral damage. So Superman comes back into the fold after Wonder Woman begs him to, and he basically tells the UN that they no longer have power. He's going to run everything. He's going to, round everybody up and put them into his own super prison.
Gulag.
And the gulag, and just, throw them all in there. And it's a very, when people sit there and they go, well, Superman's such a Boy Scout, and he always tries to be diplomatic. This is Superman completely undiplomatic. He's like, oh, you're crossing the line? Gulag.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good halfway character between the Boy Scout everybody knows and then that like vicious injustice character that everybody's really aware of. So Kingdom Come is definitely a good way to feel out what Superman would be if he stopped respecting humanity and was just like, I'm the most powerful person on the planet. I'm going to do what I want.
The art that Alex Ross did
It's
in
amazing.
this book, by far the best. Anytime I see an Alex Ross comic, anything, I'm just in awe because of his art style.
I think what I really liked about this one was it's very Norman Rockwell, right? You could almost imagine these like up on like a diner wall in the middle of Wisconsin, and you're just like, yep, that's a slice of Americana right there. American Pie, yeah, that's what that. But of course it's comics, so. And then again, another Mark Waid written book, it's really good.
My number 2 is the best look at the Joker that's ever been penned. Heath Ledger did a great job as the Joker, but the Killing Joke is the end-all, be-all Joker. And thankfully, they're making the animated movie with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
And they also greenlit a live-action version, which is what the rumor is that Ben Affleck's Batman movie is going to be, which I want. My co-host on Neek, the podcast, kind of on the fence, but I would die if they decided to do the Killing Joke live.
That would be amazing. The premise behind it is the Joker goes to Barbara Gordon's house and shoots her, paralyzes her, and she's no longer Batgirl, kidnaps her and Commissioner Gordon, and this is the last dance between Batman and the Joker, and the ending panel is one of the biggest debates in comics. What happens in that ending panel? Does Batman kill the Joker, or what happens with the Killing Joke?
There's a lot of controversy in that book, like huge amounts of controversy. One is the insinuation that maybe the Joker raped Barbara Gordon. The thing that I really respect about the Killing Joke is that it's one of the first books where they took a villain and just said, we're letting it off its Saturday morning cartoon leash, right? Like, I always tell people the Killing Joke is the Joker unleashed. It's everything that you've ever wanted him to be or thought he could be, and then it's like amped up to the nth level. Granted, they couldn't do everything that they wanted to do because of the time that it was written, and they still wanted to sell, trade paperbacks, but when you think about, if you know any of the comic books before the Killing Joke, and then the Killing Joke arrives, it's a cold, hard smack in the face of violence and just psychology, and written by Alan Moore, who's crazier than batshit, but he writes amazing books, man. So, that's my favorite one. That was the first book. I can't remember how old I was when I read it. I know I was in my teens, and I was just like, this is a fucking comic book? And I was just like, all right, let's do this. Cool.
It sets the tone for everything after it.
It does, and that's for everybody who's a fan of Batman. And I know a lot of people don't want to admit this, but if you became a fan of Batman because of the Nolan trilogy, that trilogy is based off of the Killing Joke, at least thematically, right? The Dark Knight is the Dark Knight because of the Killing Joke. So,
Number 1.
now this isn't my favorite Superman story, but this is the one that I think everyone needs to read if you want to understand modern Superman. It's also primarily what the Batman vs Superman, Man of Steel, Superman is based off of. They still get it wrong, which is fine. And, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, comic book fans are always saying that crap. They get everything wrong." But this is probably one of the most important works of Superman in the last 20 years, because it definitely takes a much different approach to him while still maintaining the whole hope aspect. And it's J. Michael Straczynski's Earth One. Earth One has a ton of series out. Two that I am excited for, I think, come out this year, are The Flash and Aquaman are finally getting Earth One versions. But this is the most important one that you could read. It's so much different than anything you will read. Lex Luthor is not a bad guy. Everybody kind of has it's like a gray moral area, the whole thing. The thing that I always respected about Earth One was the first volume is that Clark goes to Metropolis, and he doesn't go to Metropolis to be a reporter. He doesn't go to Metropolis to be Superman. He starts off going to try to play baseball and gets a contract. And then he goes, it's too easy. So he goes to a science lab, and he's super smart. So they offer him a contract for a lot of money, and he goes, it's too easy too. And he finally settles down on being a reporter and trying the superhero thing out. And of course, he doesn't he meets Lois Lane, but they don't have their love, relationship, whatever. But he lives in a tenement building. His best friend is the hooker who lives across the hall from him. And it's a very real look at what Superman would be like in the modern world. Young and confused and things like that. He does destroy Metropolis by defending them from an alien invasion and whatnot. But there are still things that separate him from Man of Steel that, you'd be like, okay, I can see what they were trying to do, but ultimately didn't get right.
The thing about Earth One Superman is it would be like Superman being in this world.
Yeah.
There's no supervillains that cackle or anything. That it is
the biggest villain in it is the American government. It's their reaction, which is rooted in reality. If there was this thing that they could not control, could not tame, could not destroy or defeat at any moment in time, like, what would their reaction be? And that's why Batman vs. Superman got me excited at first, because the first full trailer, showed him going to Congress and talking, which is in Earth One's books, right? And, it showed people worshiping like a god, and then others calling him a false god, and that's in Earth One as well. And I was like, yes, please just follow that book. If you're going to do a little bit of the next book that you're going to talk about and throw it in there and whatnot, that's fine, and do the whole Batman vs. Superman thing, cool. But if you're going to do Earth One, just make sure it's
follow
right.
it like the Bible.
Like don't Zack Snyder it. Don't take any liberties, please God. Who's your David Goyer? No.
Fire him. Hire Kevin Smith.
He hasn't written a good comic book movie since Blade.
And as you mentioned, the American government, there's one comic book that's definitely heavily involved with that, and that is Dark Knight Returns, the first one, not any of the other ones. Frank Miller, a god among men, pretty much, when it comes to comic book writing, made the single most important comic, in my opinion, to Batman. And the whole just premise of it, that there's this old Batman that retired for a long time, and then Gotham's just going to crap. Just going to crap, and then he finally has to take up the mantle again. The big bat flies through the window and everything, and then it's just go from there. The mutants were an interesting take, because it wasn't, a super villain. It was these people that were rioting and that wanted to take control of the city, and just everything that was in the book, just the art that's just very harsh. And bringing in a female Robin was the coolest thing I think has ever been done, in my opinion. That's like one of the highest
highest like debatable. What's her name? Stephanie
No, it's Kelly. Right?
Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly.
Well, there's another female Robin too.
Yeah, but she was the first.
Okay, Kelly's the first.
Yeah.
Right.
But I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. And I actually didn't read it until after I saw the animated movie.
No, really.
And the animated movie did a fine job. It didn't have the internal monologue, but I think it did a great way of capturing it. But the whole story, you get to see the Joker. The Joker's been pretty much comatose because Batman hasn't been around.
Yeah.
And once Bruce takes the mantle again, the Joker becomes active and he gets loose. And the fight between them is like a ballet of two lovers.
Yeah.
And I think Frank Miller did such a great job with that. And that's just the first two books. The third and fourth book are all about Superman and Batman.
Oh, yeah.
And Superman doesn't want to do what he has to do. He's telling Bruce in one of the scenes, he's like, you've got to stop. I've got the people that tell me what to do. You've got to stop. And then the fight. You cannot get past the fight. If I didn't mention the fight, I would be crucified.
Yeah, yep.
The fight between both of them, God versus man, just epic. And of course, Batman didn't do it alone. He had Robin, and he also had Green Arrow. Everybody leaves Green Arrow out of this. Right? Green Arrow was the crutch in all of it. If he didn't shoot the arrow that had kryptonite into Superman, then the fight would have been won. Superman would have just killed him.
Yeah, but I mean, also, you know, that fight also shows one of Superman's greatest strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is restraint. Mm-hmm. Because let's face it, he could have just ended that fight and it had been done and over with. But you know, the respect for Bruce, the love for Bruce, and not just like his love and respect for humanity, but his love and respect for that man, is without a doubt what stopped him from doing that. And of course, yeah, someone look at that as a weakness, you know, because he let himself get shot by a kryptonite arrow. But at the same time, it's, you know, he could have killed him easily. He could have killed everybody easily, and he never did. So,
yeah, and even when Batman has his heart attack, he's concerned. Yeah, like he's not going in for the killing blow. He's concerned about his friend.
Exactly.
And the very end, where it's the funeral, and shows a little heartbeat, and like Superman's walking away, and he just kind of stops and smiles. I'm just like, boom. Yep. So these are all great books. Do you have any honorable mentions?
I do, and I brought these because this is a current run by Max Landis, who is up and coming. He's been writing comics for a while. He's actually the screenwriter for Chronicle, which was a great movie, except for Josh Trank. But these are called Superman, American Alien. Superman, American Alien is a look at him becoming Superman. It's a 7-part series. They're only on issue number 5 at the moment. It is absolutely phenomenal. Like, it's so refreshing to see somebody who gets Superman. And not just the character himself, but Clark Kent as well. Each issue is actually illustrated by a different artist. All of them written by Max Landis. The 4th issue, to me, is just, it's an amazing piece of storytelling. It's Clark's, like, first day in Metropolis. He gets to go to do interviews with Oliver Queen and Lex Luthor.
Oh, cool.
Well, through some trickery, but I won't get into that. But he winds up at LexCorp. And at LexCorp is a daycare. And Lex is making fun of him, basically, you know, talking down to him, like, you know, Lex does, that he's the smartest man, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, this is your floor, Kent. And he pushes him out, and he pushes him into the daycare to basically be like, you're a child. You go on this floor. And Clark winds up running into a child, Dick Grayson, a couple months after he'd been adopted by Bruce Wayne. So Clark is talking to Dick, and he's asking him about the Batman. And Dick Grayson flat out goes, he's a frightening person. He's fear, and there needs to be a counterbalance. This child is telling Clark Kent, who he doesn't know is Superman, that there needs to be hope with the fear and whatnot. And I was just like, it like will blow your mind, and you're just like, yes, like thank you. You get it, Max Landis, you really do. But the first issue is also just wild. It's basically Clark as a child trying to figure out how to fly, and his parents trying to help him, and he actually gets stuck in the sky. and his dad has to take an airplane and like try to go grab him from the middle of the. I mean, it's just really interesting stuff, and it's really cool. There's I think that's the second issue where they don't say it, but the way that the town reacts, like there are people in Smallville that know that he's got powers, and I like that because it's basically like saying, there would be no way to hide all of that, right?
Yeah.
So it would take a town to raise a hero, basically. So like the sheriff knows, Clark has a couple of best friends who know, some like a doctor knows, and everybody's hiding the secret, helping to hide Clark and whatnot. And I like that, it makes more sense.
It makes it more believable.
More believable, right? And more grounded. And then Clark accidentally heat visioned some guy's arms off at the end.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, during a hostage situation. So it's like, he really, like, it hits the right beats. And I think it's going to be, by the end of it, I can't really speak of it right now because there's 2 more issues left. But my expectations by the end of it is going to be in the top 5, top 10 Superman stories of all time because it is that good. Like, it is written that well.
It's when a writer that gets the character gets on that book and knows that they've grown up knowing what story they want to tell is a huge thing.
He got this job, though, Max Landis, by writing an article about Clark Kent Superman. And DC called him and was like, do you want to write for us? And he was like, yes, I do. He was actually just on Kind of Funny, actually. So I'm really looking forward to his last 2 issues. I'm going to tweet out at him when it's done and just be like, I want to let you know that your work, for me as a huge Superman fan, has meant a lot to me. Because it's not, trying to relive the 70s, and it's not, trying to make him into something where all these, dark and gritty people who like Batman and stuff will appreciate and whatnot. It's Superman, and it's appreciated very much so.
Yeah. And just like Scott Snyder, when he took Batman, that transformed a lot of things. It made it into more believable, especially with the relaunch of 52. My honorable mentions, Black Mirror, also by Scott Snyder. An amazing book with Dick Grayson as Batman. Just amazing. Got to read that one. Death of the Family, another Scott Snyder.
I've got more. I didn't know we were doing more. I thought we were just doing one now.
We can do more.
Okay, I got more.
Okay, well, I'll finish mine out.
Fair enough.
Year One, Frank Miller, just
Great book.
seminal book for Batman. 0 Year, the best look at the Riddler I think has ever been written.
Yes.
And then Death in the Family, the killing of a Robin, pretty much.
You had that twice.
Death of the Family, which is the Joker coming back. Yeah.
I always hate that. It's like the same goddamn story, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like one right after the other, and it's like whatever. Okay.
And then Nightfall, where Bane breaks the bat.
I love Nightfall because I love Azrael. He's a crazy man, crazier than a bag full of cats taking a piss, man. Holy shit! But I always that was actually I think the only Batman series that I had every single book to, even to when Bruce comes back and like whoops his ass and like, what are you doing? Because he's going around killing people left and right, just purge their souls. Like,
well, the awesome suit that Azrael
yes,
wore was
that like
just
that RoboCop looking suit, dude. Oh my god, with the jetpack.
Oh yeah, so those are must reads if you want to get into the Batman side. What are some of your honorable mentions?
Well, that American Alien, because you can, it's available now. Go get it. Red Sun Superman.
God, yes.
Red Sun Superman. While I always will have an issue that I think they really should have taken him to that communist point, maybe corrupted it a little bit, but it's Superman lands in a farm commune in the Ukraine during the Cold War, and he gets raised to be like the Soviet leader and shit like that, and it's really cool, really interesting look at what would have happened if he wouldn't have landed in America. Like the beginning of the book, even Dwight Eisenhower goes, if you would have landed 18 hours ago, you would have landed right smack dab in Kansas. So that's cool. Last Son of Krypton is another good book. Zod's son actually comes to Earth, and Zod has to follow him. So Superman is like raising this child, but it's actually his like worst enemy's child. So that's pretty cool. Then right now going on, even though Superman's kind of off to the side, but it does kind of go into some interesting stuff with Batman. The Dark Side Wars, which are out right now. I would suggest getting the one-shots for for Batman, The Flash, and Shazam, actually, is the other one that I really enjoyed. But it's basically Darkseid is dead, and a couple of the Justice League members get god powers. And,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and Batman actually gets the Mobius chair. So he's actually sitting in this chair. It feeds him. It nourishes him. It shows him everything that's going on in Gotham or what will happen in Gotham. So he goes and it's like Minority Report, right? He goes and stops the crime. Yeah, crime prevention. Refuses to get out of the chair. But the funny thing is that he doesn't use the chair for the world. He uses it just for Gotham. Like, he will not leave Gotham for anything. While the Flash becomes the Black Racer, which which for those that don't know, the Black Racer is death in DC. He's part of the Speed Force, which is why you can't see him. So the Flash joins with him. He is now the aspect of death. Barry Allen is. So, and then Shazam gets new gods. No more Hercules. No more Zeus and all that stuff. Now he has old gods and one special god, which I don't know if you want me to spoil it.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's Darkseid's dad.
Oh.
Which is, what's his name? Khan. Yuka Khan, right? He is one of the gods' powers that now Shazam has. And I'm just like,
awesome.
Yeah, like
That
I was like,
awesome.
I was like, really? Like, I didn't want to read Shazam before, but we're doing it now.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So there's a ton of stuff to read. I know Batman vs. Superman comes out tomorrow, and we will be doing some type of review right after it. But thanks, Chris, for coming on.
Yeah, man,
you
no
can
problem.
plug your stuff.
Neek the podcast. We can be found on Stitcher. We can be found on iTunes. Don't look for us on YouTube, please. SoundCloud. And, of course, we have our Facebook group, our Facebook discussion group, and our fan page. We also have Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter. You can find me personally on Twitter at Darth Biebs, DarthBiebs, because Darth Bieber is the most redundant evil in the universe.
Still evil.
But still highly evil. And then, of course, on Instagram, Kiku's Playhouse, KIKUS_Playhouse. And that's actually where I do most of the marketing for the show.
Awesome.
Pictures. Who doesn't like pictures?
Yeah.
I mean, we read comics. We like pictures, damn it.
Well, thanks for coming on.
No, man, thanks for having me. As always, I love being part of the Nerd Cave Network.
Yeah. Guys, definitely go check out all their stuff over there at Neek the Podcast. This has been Zach.
And Kiku.
Have a week.
Oh, Jesus Christ! No! Oh my God!
Ah, sucker!
Got any plans tomorrow? Yeah, girl.